Fire, it is essential to survival, and man has had fire since the beginning. It gives us light, heat, boils our water, cooks our food, keep predators at bay, and also it's cleansing. If there are things that need to be burned, we can start anew with fire. And fire is very convenient for us in today's world. But what happens when the fire goes out? Bic lighters, super convenient, easy to use, but they are also vulnerable. So we're going to take a look at a number of different ways that we create fire. And then we're going to look at some unorthodox or different ways. And also, which is almost as essential, is fire tinder. You can get this little flame, but can you keep it going? And so we're going to do some demonstrations I'm going to show you. But guys, the most important thing is to have a good fire kit and to know how to create fire and get a fire going. Because again, it is essential to survival. All right guys, we're going to go through a number of different ways to start fire. We're going to show you some just traditional items that you already know about and a little bit of the pros and cons, and then we're going to go into and demonstrate a number of different kind of unorthodox ways to start fire. But I will say, I'm going to annotate a video though that I did of making fire in the rain in wet conditions. And guys, if you know what to do, it's not as difficult as you would think. All right guys, first and foremost, the most convenient, easiest way to start a fire is with a Bic lighter. They just light, you know, they're fairly cheap, and they're really good, the most convenient way to start a fire. The way I start fires more than any other. Problem with a Bic lighter is that it's fuel reliant, so it has fuel inside which can run out, especially if your little tab gets pushed down in your pack, and that can just release the fuel. The second biggest problem, and probably one of my biggest problems, is this wheel can get corroded. If it sits in a pack too long, sometimes, or even in a drawer, it'll get to where it's really stiff and you can't turn the wheel, and so it's locked down. Even if you run out of fuel though, you can still get a spark and with that flint. So just because your fuel's out doesn't mean you should throw this away if you're in an emergency situation, but definitely if this is locked down, you're done for. And then you have your matches. This obviously has been one of the biggest ways to start fires for generations. Really easy, just strike on the box and we have flame. So it makes it really simple. But, you know, these are limited, and if they get wet, you can't even use them, especially the box, because you have your striker here, so it's dependent on this box. And there's the old magnesium block with the striker or the ferro rod or some kind of, you know, way to light this, and I mean, it does well. And you can actually shave off the magnesium to create even more of a fire. And so this is a great option. They've kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, but these are traditional fire starting methods. Next, go to a convenience store, and these are pretty available. I mean, these are torch lighters. There's a lot of different types. They put out a really intense flame, and they're typically windproof. Again, they are limited to the fuel, but these are really good fire starters. Then we have our ferrocerium rod or ferro rod fire steel. These are excellent because they last a long time. I mean, you can get thousands of strikes, and you have your striker. Of course, these come with the striker, but you need to make sure if you have a knife that it has good carbon steel to it. This is a great way to start a fire. It makes it really easy. And there are some really inexpensive ones, but they tend to be softer. But you don't want them to be too hard. There is a certain method that you want. Now to me, my favorites are the Exotac. You can actually replace this. But the fire rod, I mean, it is an excellent tool. And then here they have the large, or the XL. And I mean, these put out a lot of sparks. So fire steels are definitely something that have really been big, and there's a good reason why. Now using the fire steel, and of course we're using the big boy, again, you got to have carbon in the steel of your blade. And you need to have an edge on it. So as we take it, there we go, we got it lit. Takes a second to catch that Vaseline, but man, once you do, now you have plenty of time to be able to get your fire tinder together, and then you can start your fire. And this will burn for a good while. But these things, they put out a lot of sparks for a long time. Of course, then you have your Zippo lighters or your butane lighters, and they are reliant on fuel, and you have to refill them. One of the problems with these is that it evaporates over time. Now here we have one of the Exotac, and this is the Titan Light. You can fill it. It is refillable, which makes it nice, and then you get a really good flame. It has a protection, a wind protection around it, and it seals. So these actually last pretty good as far as retaining your fuel. Here we have one of the Minuteman, and this is their torchlight. This is something that's no longer made, but this is just a small little butane lighter. And you can see I have carried this to hell and back. I mean, this thing is worn out. I love it though. And then you have your standard Zippo. The problem again, and this one has not been filled in a while, is we get a spark, which you can use, but the problem is you don't have fuel and it evaporates out. And guys, flint and steel. I mean, it's been around really from the beginning. The steel with the flint, and you just strike a spark, and then you have char cloth to be able to get an ember. It takes a while. Of course, you have your bow drill method as well. And these take some skill to be able to create a fire. So while these are excellent and you can use these over and over, it takes time to learn. And guys, when you're in a really bad situation, you want to have the easiest way possible. Now, one of my favorite matches, hands down, are the weatherproof matches, specifically the lifeboat matches. And here you can see this really orange kind of coating on here. Here we have the UCO. These, it's just mainly a container. And we have the matches in here. And guys, these are waterproof. In fact, you can dip these in water, and we're going to demonstrate that in just a second. This even has some extra strikers, but this is a sealed container, which with this box, it can get wet and your striker is not going to be any good. And so really having a way to tuck those away if you're getting the waterproof matches anyway. And then here we even have a little sleeve to keep the wind off. And this is an Exotac, and this is one of the match caps, extra large. But same thing, and it does have an extra striker in here. Also on the container itself, it has a striking point. And so these, to me, again, are hands down if you're going to have matches. Now when it comes to the lifeboat matches, all right, here we have our lifeboat matches, and we're going to test this out. Here we have a striker. We also have a striker on the bottom. Once this thing lights, and I mean it lights big, you can take it, put it in water, bring it back up, and there it goes. It lights again. Guys, this is, to me, again, the best fire starter match out there. Next is the blast match. And this, guys, is something pretty impressive. It has a striker here, but you can actually deploy this and light this with one hand. These are used by the Air Force. In fact, they were called Air Force blast matches originally. And so you have your striker that pops down, and then you put pressure on it. As it goes down, it sparks. But this, to me, especially for a one-handed option, other than a lighter, this is going to be the only fire starting tool that you don't need both hands. Okay guys, we have the blast match, and I'm going to put it on the table because this marble's too slick. Just take it, press it down, and put a little pressure, just like that. I mean, this puts out quite a bit of sparks. And with that Vaseline and cotton ball, it's just simple to get things started. Now, really fine steel wool, and it needs to be fine. And then we have a 9-volt battery, and we can connect these and we can start a fire. So this is just out of household items. If you have really fine steel wool, you can pull this out of a radio or something. You don't want to pull these out of a smoke detector, but these are around, and having these available, it makes it really easy. All right, your fine steel wool and battery. First thing you want to do is kind of open it up, let your fibers kind of get a little bit loose, and then take your steel wool and just rub it on here, and you can see it's starting to catch. It's making a connection with the steel. And then it won't take long for this to really catch on. I mean, this is pretty impressive. It looks like little fire ants going everywhere. But it just goes along the fibers, and this way you can get a fire started. These are 2 household items that are easy to use. Now, one of my favorite fire tenders is Vaseline and cotton balls. I've been using these for years. I don't have to order anything. I can just run by the store, pick up some Vaseline, get my cotton balls. They're cheap. You can make tons of it. One of the big problems with Vaseline and cotton balls is it can be messy because of the Vaseline. And so typically I'll put them inside a bag, and then I pour the Vaseline in it, and then I just mush them all together. You can actually heat the Vaseline on the stove and then put the cotton balls in, but then you've got a messy pot. But this is, to me, one of the best ways. And put it in a little bag like this, or even a smaller bag. And this gives you a lot of fire tinder. And guys, while we have lighters and matches and fire steels, the fire tinder is something that you definitely need to go with it. Also, chapstick. You're going to have chapstick with you a lot of times, especially if you're out on the trail or you're out somewhere or in a bug out bag. And this will keep your lips from getting chapped, but it's also a great fire starter as well. And with the cotton balls, it just adds a little bit of accelerant, makes it a little easier. And then hand sanitizer. This works with the Vaseline and cotton balls, but it also just lights. And so anything that's alcohol-based like this is also an excellent way to get fire started. Then we have our Vaseline and cotton balls. Best thing to do with this is to kind of separate this out and just get it to where the fibers will light. If it's all gummed up, it can still light, but really allows it to get to that Vaseline. Take your lighter or whatever you want to use, and it lights really fast, and it burns a long time. Again, guys, this is one of my favorites for a number of different reasons. The only downside to this is it can be a little messy. And then we can take our chapstick, very similar to the Vaseline, and we can just rub it into the cotton ball. Or you can do this into a piece of cloth or whatever that'll hold it, but it will make it an accelerant. Take our lighter, and same thing, and that was just a little bit of lip balm. And we have some hand sanitizer. Just going to put some on with the cotton ball. Now this will evaporate fairly quickly. There you go. Now you have an alcohol flame, and this burns really hot. So if you have some hand sanitizer in your vehicle and you need a way to start fire, this is a great way to do it. Now candles. These little tea light candles, and you need to make sure they don't get too hot because they'll melt, but these are excellent to get a fire going. If you can light the wick, and then you don't have to press on your lighter. So instead of just sitting here and holding a lighter on something to get it lit, I can just take it and put it on my candle, and then I have flame that's going to be just burning. And so, while that's a tiny little flame, this still works really well. Another thing is the Exotac 4-hour nano candle, and they have a lot of these extended hour candles, but this will burn for 4 hours, and it makes an excellent way actually to heat in a tent, and it gives you a little bit of light. And these are just excellent. There's some larger ones obviously, and so again, this gives you some warmth, some light, and it can be used for fire starting. Now if you have some twine, jute twine, you have some rope, anything that has that fibrous material, this will also be an excellent fire starter. Of course, you can cut this off and use just parts of it. So having this packed away, plus this actually gives you cordage if you need it. All right, we have a little bit of our twine. We're going to see how that works. I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull it apart a little bit, let it get started. It's got a lot of fine fibers, which makes it easier to light. And if we need to, we can pull the rest of those fibers, but I think that's actually going to give us almost a little match. That we can take it, light what we need to, but it's going to burn. Yeah, and again, you can use this for cordage. Now this is a small little tool from Zippo. They no longer make this, they've upgraded. They have a number of different fire starting tools, and you might want to check those out. But here you just pull out your little striker, and then right here is your kind of ferro rod, and there's a track. And so as I put this on here, I can just strike. Now you've got to have some really good tinder to get a fire going. And again, the Vaseline cotton balls and those kind of things work well. But this is a great way to have this put away in your fire kit. Now for tinder, especially if I want to have wood shavings, a small little pencil sharpener is great. You just take the sticks about the size of a pencil, put it in here, sharpen it, you get the shavings, or for that matter even a pencil, and you can have fire tinder. It'll burn longer, it'll get your fire going, and it will be burning wood. So this is just a really easy way. They're tiny, you can throw this in a pack, and it gives you an ability to create fire tinder just from nature. Now when it comes to your pencil sharpener, take a piece of stick. If you want to get some of the bark off, it helps. We'll just start doing it until we get these shavings. We can get some clean shavings pretty quickly, and they're very thin, and they're going to light pretty easily. It's been raining for the past couple of days, so we'll see how these do. This is going to give you fire tinder. And we got it going. Now this is an unusual item and something I'd never thought about, but this is a grater. And so I can take wood and I can do it just like I'm grating cheese, and I can grate little pieces or shavings of wood. What's really cool about this little kit is it has a ferro rod in it and it has a striker. And so this gives me some ability to be able to create the fire once I've started it. A neat little fire kit all in itself. And this is made by Smith or Smiths, and you know, just a cool little unusual way to start fire. Maybe the only thing you have is a grater and you want to use it, it's going to work. Now with the grater and this little small kit, I want to go ahead and get that out so we can capture all of our shavings in here, which that's a big plus in itself. This is going to make really fine shavings though. Going along with the grain seems to be a better option too. Let's see what we have. Oh yeah, check that out. Man, that's excellent. We're going to put that down. Get a little nest going. We'll go ahead and use the provided fire steel. There we go, we got it going. This is a pretty cool little kit. Smith's, huh. Now one you may have heard of or you may not, Doritos. They make excellent fire starters. And if you have some Doritos with you on your camping trip, this is going to help you to be able to start fire, especially if you have nothing else. But it burns really well. All right, we have the Doritos. These are old, so I don't know if they'll burn as well as a newer one, but big thing about these is you can keep that fire going. You can see we got a little bit of wind. Okay, we got it burning. And this can be used similar to a match, or you can put fire over it. You can use this as a standard tinder. And just think, you're eating these. And they're flammable. Now here we have fat wood. This is out of the pine tree. So you can actually find this, especially if there's a lot of sap that's inside the wood, it is flammable. And so you can take a large piece like this and just shave it off. Here's a nice piece that's actually half finished. And then we have just some shavings. And this works really well. It gets your fire started. And this is really what you're going to do with your fat wood. But there is a lot of different fat wood out there that's just naturally harvestable. So finding the way to identify it, and you can use fat wood. It's again a very natural way to start fire. And fat wood's fire steels is one of my favorites. They're down in Georgia and they use Georgia pine, and they make all kind of different fat wood. But again, you can find a lot of this just out in nature. Let's take some of our fat wood. I'm going to get some fine feathering. One thing about this is that a lot of times when you finish it up, it'll scatter. And so you want to be careful to do this in just one area, because there's a lot of work to be done that you want to lose. Well, here we have our fat wood just a little bit cut. And immediately this is lighting up. I mean, that is really fast. You're going to need something to be fast too, especially if you're using a ferro rod. It's going to take it a little bit longer. But fat wood, I mean, that's been a traditional way to start fire for a long time as far as fire tinder. And it smells good. You can smell that pine. Now, similar to fat wood is wood that has actually been treated with either wax or some kind of accelerant. And so this allows for this to light really easily. I really like this. The guy that used to make these, he doesn't make them any longer. But this is a great option, and man, these things burn for a long time. Now we're going to try some of the wood that has the accelerant. And first thing, I try to get some small pieces. The whole stick will burn, but I want to get it into a little bit of a smaller piece. You can actually baton this down if you want, but this is pretty small. And it's very fibrous. Lighter. I mean, that gets it going. And again, you want that to burn for a while. If you have just natural wood, it takes a lot longer to get it to burn and get started. And guys, there's a lot of options out there that are pre-made for fire starting. And here we have some fire strip roll. This is Pro Camp Tech fire starters, and we have the Pro Camp Tech. This is a rope type material. It's really cool. The fire sticks, we've done a whole review on these. These things are awesome, and I mean, you can use these quite a long time for multiple fires. And in here we have the UCO, and this is the Sweet Fire fire starters. Again, just a little bit of wood that's been impregnated, makes it easy. And also you have your fire pucks, and these are great. These really start a big fire. And you can actually start these just from the striker that's on it, and it'll light. And we did a review on this a number of years ago. Now we're going to try the fire stick, and you can see it's kind of a braided rope. There's some kind of accelerant on here, and you want to kind of move it out. In fact, we're just going to take a strand or two. I've burned a whole stick of this before. It'll actually float on top of water, so it is waterproof. We're just going to try this. Yeah, it's catching really fast. And getting those fibers started, that really gets the whole thing going. And then when it gets to the thicker piece, it'll be ready to burn it. These are great. I actually just found these on a whim and bought them. I think it was on an Instagram page, but these work really well. And the others that we have, Pro Camp Tech, I mean, those are great too. Now obviously black powder is something that you could use. We can take a regular bullet and we can pull it, pour the powder out, and it is a way to start fire. If you're hunting or if you have one round you want to waste. It is a little difficult to get out, but here we have just some smokeless powder, and we're going to go ahead and test this out. I'm just going to show you. It's a simple way to do it. You may not be carrying, again, something like this, but you could possibly have a bullet. Also, we have some black powder. And so we're going to just check it out, how it burns against the smokeless powder. All right, we're going to check out the smokeless black powder, see how it does. Just going to pour a little bit out. Again, you can take a bullet or a cartridge, open it up, and you can try it as well. Take a lighter. Woo, good gosh. Now see, that goes really fast. So you may have to kind of spread it out a little bit, but it's not going to be the optimum, but it will get you going. And next we're going to take one of the 777. This is black powder, and I'm not going to actually handle it. I'm going to try to crush it this way, because you'll want to get it crushed up a little bit. It'll help. This ought to be interesting. Whew! That's crazy. Now that just is a flash in the pan, literally. Now with the Exotac Fire Rod XL, inside they have what they call the tender tabs. This is a fire tender, and these are used by the U.S. military. So this is an excellent way to start fire as well. And you can get these in bundles. I've ordered them online a number of times. The great thing about this particular fire steel is that they go inside this little capsule, and you have duct tape. So guys, while we've looked at a number of different ways to start fire, there are other ways. This is really the tip of the iceberg, but it does go through a lot of the basics. Again, there's a ton of different resources out there, and fire is important to have that skill. The tinder is very important as well to keep that fire going, because redundancy is important, because sometimes the big lighter works great. Sometimes the fire steel works great. Sometimes something else or some emergencies happening and you know how to start a fire without using gasoline, which is no-no. Guys, when it comes to fire, it is essential to survival, and having a good fire kit and knowing how to use it is vital for survival situations. And Exotac makes the best fire starters on the market. Made in the USA down in Winder, Georgia, using really high-grade aluminum. They machine some really beautiful handles, a lot of different features, replaceable ferro rods, and a number of other different fire starting tools. You get 20% off using Sootch 20 with the link down below in the description. And a big thank you to Exotac for sponsoring today's video. So guys, again, fire is vital for survival. And having a way to start fire is important, and hopefully showing you some things that might just pique your interest. Guys, again, You've got to improvise to survive, and sometimes you may not have that small Bic lighter. Now, there may be some ideas that I missed or some things that you know about, experiences you've had. Leave them down in the comments. It's always good to see for the community, because again, fire is vital. And make sure you get yourself a good fire kit and have a number of different ways to create fire. But most importantly, get out and build a small fire. There's a lot of skill that's involved, and the more you practice, the better you're going to be. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Man has started he started the beginning. When he started the beginning, fire. It is elemental it's not elemental, shut up. Here I have an old Numath, and this is one of his lights that used to make them at Going Gear. But this is a neat little light, or what is this? Fire. Fire. Where's the fire? It can keep predators at bay. It is a very important part of life. There's one I had forgotten. Figuring out your way to start fire, getting your fire kit together. I mean, it is something that is vital. It is okay. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Scratch that. Demo. But there's a number of different ways we're going to take a look at that are different. Something that you may have or may not have even thought about. Maybe I didn't think about it.